This week we have a new stitch in the Fancy Stitch combo series called the bead stitch. And I don't think bead stitch is the best name for it. I would call it lattice stitch or something else, but I don't name these. I just show you how to work them. The instructions for this are in the video description below, and I give you instructions for both knitting this flat and in the round. The instructions are also on my website. This is a 4-row repeat and kind of a complicated stitch, so I encourage you to keep close count of your rows and where you are. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stitch. Here's the stitch in a fuzzy wool and alpaca roving yarn. And the different yarns and gauges you use make different parts of this pattern more prominent. Here's this, very pretty. And here it is in a cotton yarn. I wanted to see how the drape on this was in a cotton yarn. And it is quite different. This is a bit lacier, a bit looser gauge. And I left this lifeline in to remind you that it's a really good idea to use a lifeline with this stitch. And when I say lifeline, I mean running some thin yarn in a contrasting color through all the stitches on the needle and then continuing and leaving this in the work. So if you make a mistake, you can rip back to that lifeline and have all the stitches be easy to pick up. There are so many increases and decreases in this work, it's really hard to rip out and get the stitches accurately back on the needle without the help of a lifeline. So here is the stitch in the loosest gauge I knit. You can see how the different parts of the design are more prominent in this. This is much lacier looking, a DK weight yarn, and I think size 10.5 needles. And for comparison, here's the denser sample again, and the lacier sample. And the wrong side of this work looks like the wrong side. There's definitely a right side to this work. And that's why I thought it was important to give you instructions for working this in the round. And here's a little sample I knit up for in the round. Because there is such a wrong side, this won't make the greatest scarf in the world, but it is a pretty alternative to whatever the pattern has for maybe the cuff on a sleeve or some other accent somewhere in a sweater. You can't see the design as well in this color, but you can see it is a very pretty stitch. Okay. So following the pattern for this, the instructions for this is a 4-row repeat using a multiple of 7 stitches. And I have already cast on 14 stitches here and worked row 4 of the pattern. And that's because I want the pretty side of the cast on to be the right side of my work. And if you don't care one way or the other, you can just start out with row 1. I have the instructions right next to me here. To start row 1, I'm going to knit 1, knit 2 together. That's simple enough. And then yarn over, which means pulling the yarn forward between the 2 needles and back again to give us a wrap on the right-hand needle. Now, I just had a question yesterday. A continental knitter, someone who holds the yarn in their left hand, was having a difficult time with the pattern because she wasn't getting the yarn overs. If you hold the yarn over here, the yarn over here, you want to yarn over by really wrapping the right needle. You want to consciously put a wrap on the right needle, and that's your yarn over. And you can hang on to that wrap with your right index finger as you go into the next stitch. Okay, back to the pattern. I knit 1, I knit 2 together. I'm going to yarn over and knit 1, yarn over again and SSK. And to work the SSK, I'm going to slip 1 as if to knit, slip a second one as if to knit, then take the tip of my left needle and put it into the front of those 2 stitches. Then I'm going to wrap the back needle and pull it through. Sharp needles are helpful for this because we do have a lot of decreases going on. Okay, that was the setup. Now I actually go into the pattern repeat. Everything between the asterisks is a pattern repeat. I'm going to knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, SSK again. Slip 1 as if to knit, slip 1 as if to knit, put the left needle into the front of those 2 stitches, wrap the back needle and pull it through. And you'll repeat that part all the way to the end of the row. You're left with 1 stitch and you knit 1. Okay, that was row 1. Row 2, I'm going to make sure my count is on. Very good. Row 2 is Purl 2 together through the back loop. I wanted to be sure to show you the wrong side rows on this because they're not straight purl rows. Now purling 2 together normally would just be putting your needle through the 2 stitches as if to purl. To purl 2 together through the back loop, we're going to do a crazy thing. We're going to line, the easiest way to get to this is to line your needles up like this and come at 2 stitches from the back like this. Okay? So you're going to purl through the back loop. Purl those 2 together, and then we're going to yarn over, and since we're already on a purl row, we'll yarn back and yarn forward again. That was the sloppiest yarn over. Let me do that again. Yarn over, which means to pull the yarn back over the needle and forward again. Purl 3. There are little breaks of easy parts. Yarn over again, back and forward, and purl 2 together. And you repeat that again. Well, you're going to repeat that same thing all the way across. So we start by purling 2 together through the back loop. I'm going to purl these 2 stitches together from back here. Oh my goodness. You want to aim low. I could have used sharper needles for this for sure. Yarn over, purl 3, yarn over again, and purl 2 together. Okay, you can see now just after those 2 rows why a lifeline might be important here. Okay, row 3 is things we've already done before. Knit 1, yarn over, SSK, slip, slip, knit, knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, and then the pattern repeat, knit 2, yarn over, SSK, knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over. And that's the pattern repeat. You'll repeat it till you get to the last stitch and then knit 1. Okay, row 4 is the last row of this, and there's one more interesting stitch I want to show you. Purl 2, yarn over, and purl 3 together. And this is where the sharp needles are really going to come in handy, because you want to put your needle, at least it's not purl 3 through the back loop. You want to put your needle, right needle, through all 3 stitches as if to purl, wrap the front needle and pull it through all 3. That's a big decrease. Yarn over, purl 4, yarn over, purl 3 together again, and you'll repeat that to the last 2 stitches where you purl 2. Okay, this is the most complicated stitch I've ever demonstrated in fancy stitch combos, but even in this enormous gauge, you can see how pretty this is and how the pattern's already coming through. And that's it, the bead stitch. Good luck.